I'm Joe. Today, we have a viewer submission about some serious bullshit that is happening in California. Jerry, an avid viewer, alerted us to the real reason higher education costs are through the roof. In his email, he wrote, "By now, we all know about the explosive rate of inflation of education, as well as the mounting student loan debt incurred by families and students who pay for it. While the mainstream media talking heads and politicians discuss the issue and its causes, the bullshit piles higher and deeper because neither the lefties or righties either want to confront the true reasons or they are clueless. The left mantra, the government needs to pay more to keep the costs for students down. The right mantra, the government needs to not pay more and cuts are in order. The reality, neither is the problem or leads to a solution. Spoiler alert, it's Wall Street bullshit at it again. And oh man, is there some bullshit here. University of California has raised billions in construction bonds after declaring an extreme financial emergency, using student tuition as a source of collateral, all the while hemorrhaging millions a month on interest rate swaps. And if that wasn't gross enough, did you know that the University of California had paid out $11.7 billion, nearly half of the operating budget, for payroll? UC's total payroll of roughly $11.2 billion in 2012 grew to $11.7 billion in 2013, an increase of just over 4%. Most of that payroll budget goes to the 135,000 plus staff members compared to the 19,000 actual faculty members. That's 6.6 staff members for every teacher. Now for comparison, City University of New York, which has more students but only shells out $115 million in payroll for about 7,000 faculty members from an annual operating budget of $3 billion. Now, let's dig deeper. Robert Meister, president of the Council of UC Faculty Associations and the professor of political and social thought, has been speaking against the bullshit that's running rampant in UC for a while now on keepcaliforniaspromise.org. You're often told that your tuition goes up because the state pays less for higher education, but you're almost never told that UC isn't obliged to use your tuition in the way it uses public money. Unlike state funds, your tuition money can also pay the interest on construction bonds and be used as bond collateral. Because UC pledges 100% of tuition to maintain its bond rating, it has also implicitly assured bond financiers that it will raise your tuition so that it can borrow more. Since 2004, UC has based its financial planning on the growing confidence of bond markets that your tuition will increase, totally neglecting their core mission statement. The core mission of the University of California is to serve the interests of the state of California. Or is it accessibility, affordability, and academic excellence, as stated by President Janet Napolitano? Now, to make things worse, UC is hemorrhaging money from these risky interest rate swaps we mentioned earlier, but not nearly as much as the $1.25 billion Harvard lost. Now, fun fact, the master of that colossal fuck-up was the Obama administration's director of the National Economic Council, Lawrence Summers. Now, Jerry linked me to an interesting piece from Berkeley, Swapping Our Future, how students and taxpayers are funding risky UC borrowing and Wall Street profits. This report examines the role of interest rate swaps in the University of California's massive expansion of borrowing from Wall Street over the last decade. The report highlights the cost to students and taxpayers of UC's interest rate swaps and debt-driven profit strategies, leaving behind UC's core public education mission. Management has poured borrowed money into construction for medical centers, dormitories, and facilities that helped attract out-of-state students. Out-of-state enrollment doubled across the UC system from 6% to 12% and tripled at UC Berkeley from 11% to 30% between 2009 and 2011. Enrolling these out-of-state students returns a profit to the university because they pay nearly triple the tuition and fees that Californians pay. Now, more out-of-state students who pay higher tuition so UC can borrow more money to finance lucrative construction projects. As part of this new financing strategy, UC managers entered into derivative contracts called interest rate swaps. These swaps promised lower borrowing costs than traditional fixed-rate bonds. Interest rate swaps are financial derivatives intended to hedge against the sudden spike in interest payments on a bond or other loan. They act as a form of insurance against interest rate volatility by allowing bond issuer to convert a variable interest rate into a fixed payment. Got it? No? Well, for more in-depth explanation, click the video here. Interest rate swaps explained. All right, moving on. Now, in Table 2 of the report, interest rate swap agreements initiated by the University of California, we can clearly see how much money the system is losing. Now, a couple million here, a couple million there, but what's that compared to the $20 billion operating budget? Well, it's helping finance fuckheads who don't belong in the ecosystem, Wall Street and banks. UC Regent and former Regents Finance Committee Chair Monica Lozano has received approximately $1.5 million in compensation for serving on the board of Bank of America, which could make as much as $28 million from the UCSF interest rate swap. In his previous job as managing director for public finance for Lehman Brothers, UC's current CFO, Peter Taylor, was serving on the UCLA Foundation Board at the same time he had authority over Lehman's business with public institutions in 2007 when UC contracted with Lehman as both bond broker and swap counterparty for the UCLA Medical Center swap. UCLA swap could cost UC up to $170 million. These fuckers are in charge of people's educations, but they don't care about the students. They care about the investors, the banks, for-profit projects like medical centers, and their own fucking pockets. So, what can we make of this? Oh, well, for one, if you're an out-of-state student looking to join the UC system, I'd reevaluate that decision. The system is banking on trapping you into paying higher and higher tuition so they can borrow more to finance more big dollar projects and send great big fuckloads of cash to Wall Street bankers. And after that, you need to wonder why the hell the UC system needs nearly 7 times as much administrative staff as teaching staff. And with all this big cash circulating, why is the average salary for a professor only $50,000 a year? The biggest problem with university and the cost of education is the huge bloat in management. Paul F. Campo wrote in the New York Times the real reason college tuition costs so much. A major factor driving increasing costs is the constant expansion of university administration. According to the Department of Education data, administrative positions at colleges and universities grew by 60% between 1993 and 2009. Which Bloomberg reported was 10 times the rate of growth of tenured faculty positions. Even more strikingly, an analysis by a professor at California Polytechnic University, Pomona, found that while the total number of full-time faculty members in the CSU system grew from 11,614 to 12,019 between 1975 and 2008, the total number of administrators grew from 3,800 to 12,000, a 221% increase. These mounting administrative costs could be the death blow for a lot of universities. Moody's Investors Service gave a negative outlook to all universities in 2013, citing mounting fiscal pressure on all key university revenue sources. Now let's take some advice from Mark Cuban. The smart high school grad no longer just picks a school, borrows money, and wings it. Your future depends on your ability to assemble an educational plan that gets you on your path of knowledge and discovery without putting you at risk of attending a school that is doomed to fail, and or saddling you with a debt-heavy balance sheet that prevents you from taking the chances, searching for the opportunities, or just being a fuck-up for a while. We each take our own path, but nothing shortcuts the dreams of a 22-year-old more than owing a shitload of money. So there you have it. College isn't expensive because it costs a lot to educate you. It's expensive because the Wall Street fuckers are involved. And there it is, a financially bloated episode 47. Our last episode on free-range kitties sparked some concerned comments. Herousify had some great insight. Obviously, nobody wants something bad to happen to a kid, but responsibility can't be legislated. Without risks, responsibility can never be developed, and those risks must be weighed and mediated by the parents, not the state. I am certain there is a better way to spend the money than protecting kids from their local parks. No shit. And how about those ultra-safe parks lately? Don't even get me started. Mr. Knucklebreaker took some time to relate some of his own experiences. After my freshman year in a college dorm, I noticed one of the other things that helicopter parenting causes in the later years in kids: having absolutely no self-control when it comes to drugs and alcohol. Now, I highly recommend heading back to the comments on YouTube to read his full post. It's excellent. NBK Kick You said, "Just like you, Joe, I used to explore and rarely made it home on time. Thank you for another great piece on how ridiculous people have become in today's society. Keep up the great work." And finally, we ruined Smokey John's day. Why did I start my morning with this? Okay, enough. Going back to reading Randall Carlson's work today, that may fuck me up even more in the head. Wow, in the head fuckage department. We're being compared to sacred geometry. Glad we could be of service. So, what's today's total?
14.
We are starting all over again. Last week we hit $100, so that means another lucky charity gets 100. This time we're giving it to the Public Justice Center of Baltimore, one of the highest rated nonprofits in the country. Their mission states, "The Public Justice Center is one of Maryland's premier nonprofit legal advocacy organizations. We work with people and communities to confront the laws, practices, and institutions that cause injustice, poverty, and discrimination. We advocate in the courts, legislatures, and government agencies, educate the public, and build coalitions, all to advance our mission of pursuing systemic change to build a just society." Something tells me they got their hands full right now and could use all the help they can get. So, if you find a story that's bullshit worthy and you want to share with me, use hashtag NLBS when posting to any social media site. And if you're really motivated, make me a video. If we like it, we'll feature you on our next segment. Of course, you can email me anytime at joe@nextlevelbullshit.com. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and be sure to watch all our shows on nextlevelbullshit.com. And don't forget to go to thenlbs.spreadshirt.com to get shirts and other cool swag. And we'll see you soon with another pile of bullshit. In the meantime, brace yourselves. Political rhetoric in the US is reaching epic bullshit levels. In a statewide poll of Louisiana, Republicans, 1/3 blamed Obama for the poor response to Hurricane Katrina, which happened more than 3 years before Obama took office. And at an event sponsored by the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce last Wednesday, Ted Cruz blamed President Obama's fiscal policies for the 2008 economic crash, which again happened before Obama came into office. It's only going to get worse before it gets worse.
Yeah.